Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I am happy to have the chance to speak to this because it's one of the reasons why I'm standing here today. I spent 3 years working for an amazing pair of companies called Professional Quality Assurance and Plato, Professional Aboriginal Testing Organization, an organization that exists because the CEO, Keith McIntosh, responded to the call of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in 2015 to try to break down the barriers to full Indigenous participation in the economy. He was looking for software testers, and we're trying to train up software testers and bring people into an IT career here in New Brunswick that offered lots of opportunity. He decided to create a course to train Indigenous people in software testing and then guarantee them employment with Plato, and built that right here in Fredericton in partnership with the Collège Communautaire de Nouveau-Brunswick and with folks from Metapanagia. And I'm proud to say that that company grew and grew, and I was proud to be a part of it. Plato now exists all across the country, has trained and supported more Indigenous people into software testing careers than any other, and is now majority Indigenous owned thanks to Keith's foresight and leadership and response to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It was sometime while I was working with Plato that I saw a news report where the Premier and the Attorney General got up and held a map of New Brunswick out in front of New Brunswickers, had half of it painted in red, and said to New Brunswickers, "They're going to take your land." It was one of the most divisive acts that I had seen a Premier do in the history of this province, to try and turn New Brunswickers against each other with an act of fear-mongering like I hadn't seen, while we were working so hard with this company to try and do acts of reconciliation, because New Brunswick does not succeed if all the peoples in New Brunswick don't succeed. And we have clear the statistics clearly show that Indigenous people in New Brunswick are not achieving the same levels of economic prosperity, well-being, health, participation, access to justice, access to education as other New Brunswickers. The failing in this case comes down to relationships. We didn't need to be here. We don't need to be in this lawsuit. We're here because this government can't listen, won't build relationships, and does not respect New Brunswickers. This lawsuit should not be something that we're into, and the Supreme Court has said so themselves. The Supreme Court has said that this is the kind of thing that you mediate, that you negotiate. It should not be litigated. It's irresponsible for this government to have let it get to this point because they couldn't manage respectful relationships and dialogue with the Wolastoqey Nation, with the Mi'kmaq Nation, and the Beskitomikati. And so we shouldn't be here talking about this at all. We certainly shouldn't be here talking about this at all, because this is a matter before the courts now, and while it shouldn't be there, and it's a failing of this government that it is there, the fact that we're now politicizing it with a minister's statement is offensive. The Wolastoqey people have made clear what they're seeking. They're looking to have the treaty acknowledged. This is a government who has told civil servants to no longer acknowledge the treaty, to turn a blind eye to the past and to the history of New Brunswick, and instead have led us irresponsibly down the path of a dangerous lawsuit. And if you look at precedents, and if the Premier had been listening to the legal advice that he had received, we wouldn't be here, because the legal advice given from the government to the Premier was to not get into this lawsuit, to negotiate, to find ways to mediate, to listen, and to build a relationship, to co-create a relationship with Indigenous peoples in New Brunswick that recognizes the treaties and recognizes where we've been. That's not what we have here today. We have a government that believes in winning and losing, and that thinks that some New Brunswickers should lose while others should win. That's not the New Brunswick that we see. We see New Brunswick where everyone has the chance to achieve their full potential, where we end systemic racism that First Nations people in New Brunswick experience to a higher degree. We need to do that through listening, through taking a step forward to co-creating a path in New Brunswick that knows where we've been and puts us all on a path to achieving the kind of health, wellness, economic prosperity, and education outcomes that every New Brunswicker should have access to. So to sit here and try to litigate a court case in the public opinion interest is not in New Brunswick's best interest. It continues to try and turn New Brunswickers against each other and make them fear their neighbours. That's not leadership. We need a government and a leader that will help New Brunswickers get to know each other, love each other, and be the good neighbours that we are. I am thrilled to say that my entire team and the people of New Brunswick want that for this province. They don't want this lawsuit. They don't want it negotiated in the legislature or in the courts. They want a government who will listen to each and every one of them, that will respect each and every one of them, and that will make decisions in New Brunswick's collective best interest. That's what me and my team will do every day, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, members.